This recipe is my attempt to recreate the awesomely bad roast beef au jus that I've enjoyed so often at cheap weddings and office Christmas parties. It's the kind of roast that a white hat wearing guy on a buffet line slices super thin for you under a heat lamp. I freaking love that stuff, and the main reason it's inexpensive is because of the cut. If it's a cheap wedding, this is not going to be a rib roast. It's going to be from the round, or at least that's what we call it here in the States. It's basically the worst large area of meat on the cow. But this is the best of the worst. An eye of round roast. I believe Brits would call it eye of rump. It's the semitendinosus muscle. It usually weighs 3 or 4 pounds, 1.5 kilos. It'll feed 8 people, and it's definitely possible to find it cheaper than this. What makes the eye of round good for thin sliced roast beef is the grain structure. Very long, straight muscle fibers running exactly parallel to the overall shape of the roast. When we slice across those, we will significantly tenderize the meat, which is good because it's very tough. Hopefully your butcher has left a nice thick fat cap on it. That'll melt in the oven. Other than that, this roast is very lean. I'll just coat it in olive oil and grind on a ton of pepper and 2 or 3 big pinches of salt, enough to generously season the entire surface area. And I'll just get in there and smush everything around. Big oven-safe pan preheating on medium-high heat, and get the oven preheating to, yes, 170 Fahrenheit or 75 C. That's the lowest temperature my oven will let me select. Anything in that neighborhood will be fine. Ovens are very imprecise when they get that low anyway. We're going to do an incredibly slow roast on this thing, which will help tenderize it further. And real quick, I'm going to smash up a head of garlic. Ow, that never works. What works is if you put it root end up. The problem with that is the cloves fly everywhere, and as long as there isn't any black mold on your garlic skin, there's no need to remove the skin for this. I'm just going to smash each clove a bit to open it up. Roast goes in the pan, fat side down at first. And yeah, that is very hot. Extreme slow roasting gets you tender meat that is incredibly evenly cooked, but it does not create browned flavor. Any brown flavor we're going to have, we need to create now. I might have overshot this a bit, but honestly, a little singeing is not terrible. We need seared flavor. I'll sear it on all sides except for the side opposite the fat cap. I'm avoiding that for now. When every side other than the side opposite the fat cap is done, I'll drop in a huge knob of butter, my crushed garlic, and a bunch of sticks of rosemary or thyme. That butter is seconds from burning, so act fast. I'm just going to roll the roast around in all that butter, then finally position it on that side opposite the fat cap. I want the fat cap on top so that it can baste the roast as it melts, and I want the bottom side almost raw when I put this in the oven. That way it won't overcook as it sits there in the hot pan. Depending on how hot your oven really is at these low temperatures, that's going to take maybe 5 or 6 hours to hit medium rare. This is definitely a weekend dinner. At some point in that time, you can think about a side dish, and I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to attempt a lazy version of Duchess Potatoes, another kitschy catering classic. 3 or 4 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes, roughly equal weight to our roast, and any potato would be fine. I won't bother peeling them. Potato skins are nutritious, taste good, look pretty. I would peel them if I was using russets or another floury variety. I think those skins are gross when cooked with wet heat. The other reason to peel is if you can see green, which you can see just barely starting to form on the corner of this potato. That green is a poison called solanine. It forms naturally when potatoes are exposed to light. A little bit ain't gonna kill you, but if you see it, trim it off. It's bitter. Speaking of yuck, that one was rotten on the inside. The rest of these I'll just clank up into smaller pieces for faster and more even cooking into a giant pot of water to boil. Some people ask if you should get the water boiling first or put the potatoes in and then get it boiling. I actually don't think it affects the cooking much either way, but imagine what all this splashing would feel like if the water was boiling right now. That's why I generally start cold and then bring it up to a boil. When it gets going, you might need to reduce the heat a little bit to keep it from bubbling over. While we wait for those to get soft, we'll grate up about 8 ounces of cheddar cheese, a quarter kilo. You could totally just buy pre-grated. That'd be fine for this. And then we'll also get about 4 eggs and separate out the yolks. Doesn't matter if you don't do this perfectly. It's okay if a little white gets in the yolk or vice versa. Rocky chug those whites later, or actually that's dangerous. Cook them. And there's those beautiful yolks. Potatoes are done when they're fork tender. A good visual cue is when you can see the skins breaking off. You could drain those in a colander, but colanders take up a lot of space in the dishwasher. I just drain through a gap in the lid. Pot goes back on, heat goes off. There should be plenty of residual heat to melt this entire stick of butter, 4 ounces, 113 grams. When it's almost melted, I'll dump in the cheese, grind in a bunch of pepper. A bunch of people use white pepper. I can't be bothered to do that. And we'll start with a big pinch of salt. Nutmeg would be traditional, but I hate nutmeg. Gotta mash these up very smooth, so I think a hand mixer is the best thing. Yukon Golds in particular are resistant to turning gluey, as can happen when you whip other kinds of potatoes. Duchess potatoes are traditionally made with cream. I rarely have cream in the house, so I'm just using butter plus milk, which in this context equals cream. Enough to get you a texture a little stiffer than you would for mashed potatoes. Give that a taste for seasoning. It's got enough salt, I think, because the cheese was salty. Maybe a little more milk. Whoa, that was way more than I meant. Okay, here come the egg yolks. Those bring a delicious flavor and help the potatoes to brown and bind in the oven. What you normally do to make Duchess potatoes now is load this into a piping bag and pipe out some rose-like shapes on a baking sheet, and then you bake them. I can't be bothered to do that. You'll see what my plan is in a moment. Let's check our roast. Virtually unchanged after a couple hours. I'll just roll it around in that flavored butter again, and I'll position my probe thermometer. I like to put in the probe after the roast has been cooking a little bit so that you can move it in and out slightly and look for the coolest spot. That'll be dead center. But aha! No point this time, because this is a totally uniform temperature throughout. That's what extreme low temperature roasting gets you. You'll see. Back in that goes. So rather than pipe these potatoes, I'm going to do an experiment and just try scooping them into a muffin tin. I'll wipe each cup with some melted butter and dump in the potatoes, and I'm already not feeling good about this. I put in too much milk. This mixture is too loose. I'm not sure we're going to get these out of here intact. I'll brush their tops with some butter. This means something. And those can just wait until we're ready for them, which will be after the roast has hit 130 Fahrenheit, 55 C. That's for medium, maybe a little medium rare. Took me 6 hours. That temp might seem kind of high, but because we roasted at such a low temperature, there's going to be almost no carryover cooking now. Look, I can lift it out with my bare hands, so you really got to roast it to the actual final temperature that you want. This is going to be medium, believe it or not. I'll crank my oven to 400 Fahrenheit, 200 C, and throw in my potatoes. And here is the beginning of my sauce. Heat on high under that, and here's another chance to get some more browned flavor. I'll just fry that garlic and stuff for a moment before deglazing with a little red wine. And wouldn't you know it, Adam got a wine sponsor again. Bright Cellars is the sponsor of this video. It's a delightful service that helps you find new, fun wines from all over the world. Doesn't matter if you know nothing about wine. Just go to brightcellars.com and take their quiz. You tell them what kind of flavors you like and whether you want red or white or both. This is my second time ordering from Bright Cellars, so Lauren and I went on the site and reviewed the wine that they'd sent us the first time.
This was our favorite.
Bright Cellars takes that feedback into account and then mails you a crate of wine that's even more suited to your tastes. Look at all this amazing stuff. And you get these wine education cards to help you learn about what you're drinking and to gradually get more conversant with wine. Because you watch me, you can get 50% off your first 6-bottle box. Just follow my link in the description and take the quiz. 50% off your first 6-bottle box of wine. Thank you, Bright Cellars. Now, we only need a little wine for this sauce, so I want to pick something that I want to drink with dinner, aged in bourbon barrels. That sounds good with beef. I'm just putting in like half a cup, and this is optional, really. You got to be careful when you cook with red wine anyway. Too much will be bitter. I'll just scrub the bottom of the pan and let that reduce a little bit, and then in goes a quart of beef stock, like 800 mils. Bring that up to a boil. Now, the cheap wedding delicacy that I'm trying to recreate here is usually billed as roast beef au jus or beef with mushroom jus. Jus in this context just means a meaty sauce that has not been thickened. And I think flavoring it with mushrooms really gives it the umami boost that it needs. Powdered, dried mushrooms. I tried making this with fresh mushrooms. It was trash. I'd guess those cheap caterers use a dehydrated flavoring product, and the one that really works for me is this stuff. Lauren got it from me in Atlanta. It's basically salt, onion powder, and dried mushroom powder. A few other things, ground mustard seeds. Anyway, it's perfect for this. If you can't get that or anything similar to it, you can grind up dried mushrooms yourself in a spice grinder. It's kind of tough to get it as fine as you would get it from a bottle, but you can get close. I'll start with a tablespoon of that. Dried mushrooms just have such a different flavor from fresh, so incredibly strong. I'll dump in a similar quantity of onion powder and maybe just a teaspoon of dried mustard. All kinds of flavorings could work here. I'll stir that up and give it a little taste. I'm going to give it another tablespoon of dried mushroom powder. I can tell it won't need any additional salt by the time it's reduced a bit. Now, texture. I think a lot of roast beef au jus sold in the United States isn't actually with jus. They do thicken it a little bit. Not as thick as a gravy, but teeny little bit of thickening. You could grab maybe 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, mix it into a little water to make a slurry, slurry, pour that in here and bring it to a boil. That'd be perfect. But I find a great thing to use when you just want a little thickening is xanthan gum, which you can buy in grocery stores these days. Instead of water, it disperses in oil. So I'll just put a little olive oil in a dish and then put in half a teaspoon of xanthan gum, very potent stuff, and it'll dissolve right into the oil. If you tried to do this in water, it would clump right up. I'll put some of that into my beef and mushroom jus, just let it cook for a few minutes and then assess. I think I want the rest in there. If you put in too much, xanthan gum can give a sauce a mucusy texture, but if you just want a little thickening, it's perfect. It gives things a preternaturally smooth, silky mouthfeel, but you could just use cornstarch. Okay, I've reduced that down by maybe a third. I'm calling it done. I'm going to strain it to get out all those garlic skins and sticks. Now, as that sits, it will develop a skin on it, just like cornstarch does, but unlike cornstarch, this will be the same thickness regardless of whether the sauce is very hot or not. I love that about xanthan gum. Okay, my potatoes have been in for like a half hour, and yeah, those are not going to come out whole. Too loose. It's fine. I'll let them cool while I slice my roast. An electric knife or a very long carving knife will help cut these slices very thin, literally as thin as you can get them. I don't care if they get a little mangled, if they aren't very pretty. I just want to shave this as thin as it can be. Look at how we're cutting across those meat fibers. Then, when we pick up a slice, it's a cross-section. Very short fibers and long, slow cooking means this formerly tough piece of meat just pulls apart. Obviously, this is going to make excellent sandwiches if you don't end up eating it all at once. And it's not the texture of braised beef. It's not falling apart. It still feels like roast beef, but this is so much more tender than if you had roasted it conventionally. No reason to waste all that juice. Pour it into your jus. Now, here's the thing. A well-rested piece of meat sliced that thin is going to go cold immediately. There's no way to avoid it. That's why those guys on the buffet line do this under a heat lamp. I find the best solution is to reheat your sauce. Put it in the microwave. Get it piping hot, and it will reheat the beef on the plate. Now, these potatoes, yeah, there's no way those are coming out whole. I'll just scoop them out, and that's ugly, but I really want to eat it, so I'm not sure I'd call this a failure. Rather than saucing the meat, I'll just flood the plate with sauce. I think that can work better and look prettier when you're dealing with a thin sauce, something more like a jus. A little beef on the plate, and that hot sauce will reheat the meat. If you want to go full-on company Christmas party kitsch, you know what you need. A decorative sprig of curly parsley that no one will want to eat because curly parsley is tough, which is why cheap restaurants and caterers like to use it as a garnish because it never wilts. That tastes kitschy, yes, but also super delicious. And the potatoes, not what I was going for, but awesome. I'd say do it just like I did, except bake it in one big casserole dish. No need for the muffin tin. It's like a cross between baked potatoes and mash. Really good. Got to pour some of that wine I opened. This is not part of the Bright Cellars ad. I just want to tell you that aging in bourbon barrels has given that a delicious vanilla flavor that goes amazing with beef. Imitation vanilla is made from wood, after all. Delicious. All right, now, employees, I'm hoping everybody's had a great time. There's still some rump roast available on the buffet line. Everybody get home safe, and we'll see you bright and early Monday morning.